Raw after WrestleMania was last night, and it was, in my opinion, the best Raw in the NETLFIX era. This is going to be my review of Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania on Screw the Script. Last night's Raw, coming off of, in my opinion, and honestly what seems like to be the opinion of a lot of others, a lot of other fans, as one of the worst WrestleMania in recent years. Last year's Mania was better. Even the year prior as a whole, it was better. This year's WrestleMania, honestly, was just overall a flop. It had some good moments. It had a few, 3 or 4 solid matches. But like I said in my previous review video, there was a lot of matches that didn't have that Mania feel. A lot of questionable outcomes that irritated fans, like the opening match, the sluggish and boring and anticlimactic finish to WrestleMania. And that's like your most important match, is your main event of night 2, now that it's 2 nights. And a lot of people did not like the main event. Granted, I know that people are going to say, oh, this is part of the storyline. John Cena said he wasn't going to need to wrestle to beat Cody. But even if that's part of the pitch and the storyline, I don't think you do that. I think that's really ballsy and not a solid way to sell a storyline by pissing off so many fans by giving them, honestly, a 15-minute crap of a main event. So Raw last night, however, much better story. Starting off with John Cena, he comes out and cuts yet again a masterclass of a promo. It really showed me and reassured me too that the right man won at WrestleMania. Cody Rhodes could never. He could never cut all these different promos and unique promos with all these fun jabs that twist. He brought up ruthless aggression at some point. He did callbacks with like CM Punk. He had that line talking about all the people that held this title before him, and that's when he brought up CM Punk. Like, there were so many layers to his promo, and Cody Rhodes can't do that. And again, one of the greatest parts about that promo last night that really solidified why he was the right person to win and why he is just overall the better wrestler on the mic, and maybe not so in the ring anymore just because he is older and he was slow in the Mania main event, but he's still an all-timer, and he had the fans booing Cody last night. When he said his name, they started booing. That is how quick the fans have turned on Cody. He is honestly, it's like deja vu. He's getting the treatment that he had at the end of his AEW run, where just like, I don't know. Cody I think he is too overproduced and too like high on himself, where like WWE and AEW both presented him as like the greatest thing at the time, and he just couldn't live up to it. And I feel like that's what happened with this title run. He just could not live up to the title run. He couldn't live up to the standards that the fans wanted. There was nothing memorable about his title run. There was a lot of memorable things about that promo last night, though. And then this happened. Randy Orton at the end RKO's John Cena. Just a cherry on top of a great segment to open up Raw. It took a little bit of time because, again, I've had this chief complaint, and I'll keep saying it because it keeps happening on Raw. They've got to stop with all the recap videos. It is 2025. We all have social media. We have all seen, if we haven't seen Mania yet, I'm sure people watched it by now. You got Instagram, X, or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Facebook, all kinds of social media avenues to see these recap videos. Post it on that. You don't need to waste your fans' time who pay money to go to live events like this to watch 40 minutes of WrestleMania recap that was happening multiple times throughout Raw last night. It was a 3-hour show, and only 3 matches happened on it. That was my big complaint about Raw last night. It wasn't perfect by any means, but Raw standards in my mind is pretty low, because for a long time Raw just wasn't very good, and it's gotten better progressively over the last year and a half. This was, like I said at the beginning of this video, the best Raw of the Netflix era in terms of excitement in my mind because of all the fun things that happened with this Randy Orton jump on Cena, for example. But 3 matches in 3 hours, come on. You cut out the fluff. You could have squeezed in a 4th, possibly 5th match at least if you didn't have to recap Mania so much, if you didn't have to show celebrities and the fans twice throughout the night. And maybe you just shorten the promos. Like, I get that Cena is your GOAT, arguably your greatest of all-time wrestler now. But did he really need to cut a 25-minute promo? Probably not. An interesting thing that I just want to make note of quick that happened last night on Raw, the women's tag titles were on the line again. My guess is that, unfortunately, Lyra probably got hurt at WrestleMania, because it's very strange that they won the titles Sunday, and then they dropped them immediately yesterday. So I'm thinking she's dealing with some sort of minor injury. Maybe she broke a toe, or her ankle, something, maybe some sort of hairline fracture that'll take her a month or so to heal from, because it almost seems like they wrote her off TV as well last night when Becky turned heel right here and hit her with her finisher 4 or 5 times, and I guess that'll be enough to write her off of TV. So I just wanted to make a note of that. Kind of a weird twist on Raw. Didn't really like it. I don't think you have Becky return Sunday night and then 24 hours later have her turn heel. I mean, the fans haven't fully digested her return yet, so I think that was jumping the gun a little too quick. But I think the reason why they did it is because they needed to write in some sort of storyline for Lyra to get injured. But I think she's injured and is dealing with some sort of minor injury that's going to set her back for a month or so. Another highlight to talk about last night, Rusev returns. That was fun to see him back. I'm very excited to see how Triple H treats him in WWE. As we all know, when he left the WWE about 5 years ago already, believe it or not, it was still ran by Vince McMahon. So I'm intrigued to see where Rusev goes going forward now that Triple H is in charge. I hope they package him as just an absolute beast. I think that kind of putting 2 and 2 together, I think that what they did last night with Gunther jumping the announce table, hopefully it's just him, lashing out and it doesn't turn into a storyline, because him and Pat McAfee, no. Gunther is so much more above that. To have that be his next feud, please don't. If that was just a one-off and he jumped Pat McAfee, there's also probably the reason why he did it is maybe McAfee's taking time off again now that WrestleMania season's over. He's got to get ready for the football season, which starts soon. I mean, the draft is later this week, actually. It's in a few days for the NFL draft for anyone who watches it. So maybe he's just taking time off again from WWE as a commentator, and that was their way of writing him off. As long as it doesn't resort into an actual feud between the two, because I really think that Rusev and Gunther could have an all-timer big man versus big man feud. Oh man, that would be so good. Please give me that. Aside from the shock factor and the fun return, I did have some qualms and some problems with this. One, this should have been Randy's opponent at WrestleMania on Sunday night, not Joe Hendry. Although that was fun, Rusev would have made it a much more competitive match. So that's one minor nitpick that I have. The bigger one, though, is Rusev got Def Rebelled. I mean, the only thing worse than his super generic-ass entrance music that he was given is this ridiculous wax sculpture of Triple H over Mania weekend. That thing, ugh, it's ugly. Yeah, I cannot stand Def Rebel. I cannot stand the majority of entrance music in WWE. It is all so generic sounding. They all sound the same. If you had me not watch the product for a month, okay, and then you took 12 random songs from 12 random people outside of the ones that do have legit entrance songs like CM Punk, Randy Orton, and such, and you played those 12 random songs while I sat down and I had to guess whose was whose, I feel like I would fail half of them. That's how generic and like repetitive their entrance songs sound. I don't like it. They need to hire someone better to make entrance music. Recap a few other quick things. Jey Uso comes out, yeet nonstop again. It is hype. It does, get you excited, but he just can't back it up, in my opinion. And I think he's very generic and stale on the mic. He cuts the most generic face promos that you can cut in WWE, and he did it last night. I mean, there was nothing like super memorable about that promo. Again, the only memorable part about him being on Raw was just his 10-minute eat session when he comes out. So that's all I really wanted to say about the new apparent world champ that I don't think is very deserving, but I digress. Then we saw, real quick, the women were showcased a lot on Raw last night, and I really think, now don't get this twisted, but I really think that the reason why they've been showcasing their women more lately is because AEW for the last 3 months now has really been doing that. I mean, I made a video on it last week about how well they've been showcasing their women's division. That Collision from like 2 weeks ago was almost entirely all women. And now you see WWE a few weeks later, this episode of Raw only had 3 matches, and 2 of them were women's matches. So yeah, and we'll kind of bleed that into the next thing. We saw Stephanie Vaquer here. I love her. She's incredible, and she had a solid Raw match with Io Sky last night. It was the best match of the night. It was. It was better than Dominic Mysterio and Penta, which I'll get to in a minute. Vaquer, Triple H, give her everything. She's young. She's hungry. She does not belong in NXT for long. She's much better than that, and I can see her getting called up to either Raw or SmackDown at some point in this year. Probably the end of the year, though. She'll have a run for a while as the NXT Women's Champ, but after that, she doesn't need to stay down there. She's gold, and it was showcased last night. And Io, again, I don't get the appeal, but she can go in the ring, and those two went to war and had one of the best Raw women's matches I've seen in some time. We did not get Cody Rhodes on Raw, which I'm completely fine with. It's kind of funny. It again, like I said, this was arguably the best Raw of the Netflix era. Much better Raw after WrestleMania than last year's Raw after WrestleMania, and we didn't even have Cody Rhodes, and I didn't even miss him. I'm sorry to be so harsh on him for those who are, Cody crybabies or whatever The Rock called it last year. But it just shows it. Like, he really wasn't all that missed. I didn't make note of it until the ending of the episode. I was like, oh, you know what? We didn't have any Cody, but it's fine by me. I think they showed like something after WrestleMania on Sunday, like a Instagram or social media thing of him just leaving the parking lot, all distraught, down on himself. And then, of course, his wife, Brandy, was following him behind, and maybe that's the last we see of Cody for a minute, but I'm completely okay with that. Now we're going into the main event segment that happened last night, not a match. I wish I had more matches, but it was still a fun segment nonetheless. We saw Seth Rollins come out with Paul Heyman for the first time. Got a good crowd reaction, which I love. And then he cut a good promo. I wish he would have mentioned him being the architect. Maybe he did, and I just missed it. I did get up to get a drink at some point during the segment, so maybe I missed it then. But good promo by Seth Rollins. Paul Heyman in his corner just makes it that much better. Paul Heyman is the GOAT of managers, and I think many of you can agree with me on that. He really is just the greatest of all time. The only other person that's currently active that's close to him is MVP over in AEW. Paul Heyman can't really do wrong. I mean, every time he's turned on somebody and joined with somebody else, it's exciting, it's refreshing, and it really draws attention, and very much did last night. And then we saw CM Punk come out, and one big problem that I had with this segment was CM Punk coming out, and immediately, he gets a few good things in on Seth Rollins, but then he gets curb stomped. And then for basically the remainder of the whole segment, which lasted 15 minutes, by the way, he was just laying on the outside of the ring, which I don't like. You have these wrestlers the night before go through, or sorry, two nights before, Saturday night, they go through a really solid triple threat match where they hit each other with all kinds of moves and finishers. And then just a very like unbelievable thing in pro wrestling that Raw is very, very much apparent in doing this often, is they have promos that go a little too long where the guy sells one finisher and is just knocked out for like 10 minutes. Like, he took a curb stomp and he was laying outside of the ring forever. Like, come on. Obviously, he would get up after like 30 seconds. He's not going to lay out for 10 minutes. Roman Reigns shows up later on. He spears Seth Rollins, and then he gives Paul Heyman a Superman punch, which I was not expecting that, so that was great. And then the exciting part happens. Someone with a hood spears Roman before he could spear Paul Heyman. And lo and behold, it's this spot right here. I'll show. Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins are now a duo with Paul Heyman. Very exciting ending to Raw, I would say. The only thing I don't want to see come of this is a match between Roman Reigns and Braun Breaker, because I think that would be the most boring snooze fest spear match on roids. That's all they're going to do. I mean, it's the main move that both of those guys do. And I think it's just a little overdone, and that would be like cooking a steak into a hockey puck overdone if they had a Reigns versus Braun Breaker match, because we'd probably see like 15 spears in that match, and that's just, come on, that's too much. But hey, that's my coverage of Raw last night. Overall, it was better than WrestleMania, honestly, which is crazy to say, but yeah, last night's Raw was better than WrestleMania. I'd probably give it like a C+, B- grade. The only big knockback was the lack of in-ring matches, and then just a few segments that I didn't super care about, and again, the overdone recap of WrestleMania. We didn't need all of that, and they did it nonstop last night, and then the added celebrity stuff and all these ad breaks, and just a waste of people's time and money when you're paying quite a bit more money to go to WWE products right now and shows versus the likes of AEW and TNA and such. Just cut back on that, please. Outside of that, I'd say like high C+, B- grade. A pretty solid Raw. Let me know down below what your favorite part of Raw was last night, where you want to see it going forward, what you expect to happen on SmackDown this Friday, and any other comments you want to mention to me. Again, this has been Maverick with Screw the Script. Thanks for watching.